A rich range of engines provides a wide choice. Over the 5 years of production, 20 names of various engines appeared on the list, including in their modifications. The power range ranges from 80 to 270 horsepower. So that everyone can choose a car with optimal characteristics. The most unpretentious and reliable power unit is a 1.4-liter naturally aspirated gasoline engine with an output of 80 horsepower. However, it is quite weak, but does not require much fuel. The 8-valve 1.6 also demonstrates decent reliability. The 1.4-liter 122 horsepower turbo engine is much more energetic and does not consume much more gasoline. Perhaps this is the most practical and versatile engine. For long runs, the 1.6-liter 105 horsepower turbo diesel, which consumes a little less than 5 liters of diesel fuel per 100 kilometers, is ideal. Those who value driving pleasure over fuel consumption should consider the 235 horsepower version of the GDI. TSI 1.2, 1.4 and 2.0 engines suffer from problems with the chain tensioner and intake camshaft phase control. In advanced cases, any of the defects can lead to serious engine damage. Volkswagen was aware of the problems, carried out a number of modifications and was kind enough to fix problems in warranty vehicles. Of course, copies with already completed modifications are preferable. It is known that sometimes defects were eliminated preventively, quietly, during scheduled maintenance. If, after starting a cold engine, an extraneous noise, crackling, is heard, or the check engine light comes on, then this vehicle should be avoided. Timing chain depletion is not the only thing that worries owners of cars with 1.2 TSI. Frequent transitions into emergency mode were caused by a faulty turbocharger bypass servomotor. The turbocharger was supplied by IHI, and the bypass came with it and was not offered separately. I have good news for you. Now, if you are planning to buy a used car, or learn more about your car, you no longer need to search for the information you need on the internet. We have collected everything in one place for you, on the website carme.pro. Here you can find out everything about the car, what breaks and at what mileage, any problems with engines, chassis or gearboxes, which trim levels are better not to mess with and how not to lose money buying a used car. You will learn all this on carme.pro. An unpleasant surprise was the increase in oil level, which occurred in the initial period of production. It was diluted with gasoline. Later the software was updated several times. A number of engines were replaced by the manufacturer under warranty due to loss of compression in one of the cylinders. It was reported that poor quality valves were to blame. The 1.4 TSI twin charger, with twin supercharging, had problems with the turbocharger. Later the software was changed and a gasket was added under the bypass valve. Another problem with the 1.4 TSI twin charger is high oil consumption. The cause could be a clogged crankcase ventilation system. If the engine began to consume oil and at the same time was running, working on 3 cylinders, then this usually indicated the destruction of one of the pistons. The powerful 160 horsepower version was characterized by failure of the electromagnetic clutch of the water pump. In 2010, this element was improved, and the problem disappeared. High oil consumption was also typical for the 2.0 TSI. The reason was a design miscalculation of the piston and piston rings. Later, modified pistons appeared. Since they had an increased piston pin diameter, the connecting rods also had to be replaced. In the 2.0 TSI of the older generation EA113, GDI edition, and our versions, valves sometimes burned out. This usually happened during long-term operation on 95 gasoline. The engine only needs the 98th. At launch, the Golf Mk6 had 2 diesel 2.0 TDI variants, 110 horsepower and 140 horsepower. In 2009, a 170 horsepower modification appeared. The weaker 110 horsepower version is distinguished by the absence of a balancing shaft module. In the past, the balancer module killed many engines due to wear on the tiny hex shaft that drove the oil pump. However, in Golf this problem has already been solved, since in 2008 the manufacturer enlarged the shaft and began to make it from more durable materials. All turbo diesels had a common rail injection system. The 2.0 TDI was originally equipped with piezoelectric injectors. But there were versions with electromagnetic injectors. It all depends on the year of manufacture and engine code. Injectors are sensitive to fuel quality, and piezoelectric ones are more expensive than electromagnetic ones. One of the common defects is related to the AGR exhaust gas recirculation valve, same as EGR, only in German. One day, the valve control ratchet began to jam, causing the servomotor to fail. Another known malfunction is cracks in the fuel line of 2-liter diesel engines of the first years of production. Since 2009, the 1.6 TDI has become available, similar in design to the 2-liter turbo diesel. Therefore, with some exceptions, they have similar problems and malfunctions. The 1.6 TDI fuel system used only electromagnetic injectors. They are sensitive to fuel quality. Owners also complained about problems with the particulate filter. It gets clogged quite quickly and the differential pressure sensor fails. The reason is frequent trips over short distances, which does not allow the particulate filter to be regenerated. All turbo diesels have a timing belt drive. According to VW regulations, the timing belt must be renewed, in the case of the 1.6 TDI after 180,000 kilometers, and in the case of the 2.0 TDI after 210,000 kilometers. The tensioner must also be replaced along with it. In practice, it is better to reduce the replacement interval by half. The belt also drives the cooling system pump. Usually the pump does not last long and begins to leak. Sometimes the belt tensioner of the attachments fails. At best, the battery will not charge. But, unfortunately, more catastrophic scenarios are also known. A flat belt can break and get caught under the timing belt. This, in turn, can lead to the valves meeting the pistons. Sometimes the DSG box begins to emit foreign sounds, clearly audible from the outside. But, as a rule, this is more of an aesthetic problem than a functional one. The robot needs regular clutch adaptation, clutch threshold settings, otherwise the clutch discs will wear out too quickly. Some diesel versions, 1.6 TDI and 2.0 TDI, including the top model Golf R, were equipped with 4-motion all-wheel drive. None of the hatchbacks in the compact class can boast of this. It is noteworthy that the Golf has offered permanent all-wheel drive since the second generation. In the sixth generation, the transmission became available only in 2009. While the standard 1.6 TDI versions have a 5-speed manual transmission, a 6-speed gearbox became available in combination with all-wheel drive. I have good news for you. Now, if you are planning to buy a used car, or learn more about your car, you no longer need to search for the information you need on the internet. We have collected everything in one place for you, on the website carme.pro. Here you can find out everything about the car, what breaks and at what mileage, any problems with engines, chassis or gearboxes, which trim levels are better not to mess with, and how not to lose money buying a used car. You will learn all this on carme.pro. All-wheel drive is implemented using a 4th-generation Haldex multiplate clutch with electrohydraulic drive. The Haldex coupling is quite reliable. The main thing is to update its working fluid every 40 to 60,000 kilometers. Haldex oil must comply with VW specification G06175A2. From the very beginning, the 6th generation offered 4 suspension versions. In addition to the standard one, reinforced, sports and adaptive were available. The latter, with ACC adjustable shock absorbers, had 3 modes: comfortable, standard and sport. The truth is that conventional suspension provides the best compromise between comfort and agility. ACC shock absorbers should be left for sports versions. Classic shock absorbers can last up to 200,000 kilometers. The service life of adaptive ones is half as long, and they cost twice as much. The levers on the front axle were also different. The very first samples were equipped with aluminum ones, borrowed from the 5th generation. However, during production they were gradually replaced by sheet metal levers. Everything depended on the motor. In some versions this was done as early as the fall of 2008, and in others only in the spring of 2010. In any case, the levers are interchangeable. Both lever options allow you to replace ball joints and silent blocks separately. The ball bearings here have a surprisingly long service life. The silent blocks have to be replaced more often. However, on a global scale, the Golf's suspension life is definitely above average. With high mileage, the silent blocks of the rear thin wishbone may wear out, causing the rear wheels to become a house. After 200,000 kilometers, the springs also give up. In versions without climatronic, due to a resistor failure, the heater fan only starts running at high speed. Poor interior cooling is often caused by a faulty Delphi compressor. Door handles jammed and moisture got into the taillights. Volkswagen Golf 6 gives practically no problems. This is the opinion of the German Technical Supervision Association TV. According to her data, defects in the 6th Golf were much less common than on average in other cars of the corresponding age group. Only springs and shock absorbers sometimes caused more trouble after 2 to 3 years. In addition, the latest copies of the 6th Golf are increasingly found to have high oil consumption. Not the same rosy, but quite positive picture is displayed in the ADAC reports. Models younger than 2010 occupy the top third of the reliability list. In the early years, up until 2009, problems were caused by faulty fuel pumps, spark plugs and ignition switches. Until 2011, there were malfunctions in the engine ECU, and the timing chain jumped. The situation was clouded by a large number of recall campaigns during the initial period of production of the Volkswagen Golf 6. The 6th Golf is perhaps less revolutionary than the 5th or 7th. However, the Golf 6 is a fairly safe choice. At least so far there are no problems with the timing chain of TSI engines.